Today we are in conversation with Netfah Amina-Afia, owner of Simply Netfah. And we will be talking today about your journey with Simply Netfah.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So let's start with talking about what Simply Netfah is and how did it come about for you?
So, Simply Netfah is a design concept based on the healing, nurturing, and beautifying of a woman's and men's sacred body temples. It's derived from my name, which is Netfah Amina-Afia. The Netfah aspect of it means free woman in Amharic. And so it's kind of simply free woman. And it really speaks to the self-defining woman who is looking for, the nature-made materials, a kind of garment that flows with her and harmonizes with her body temple and kind of speaks to a mindset and a consciousness and a way of embracing fashion for its truest form.
And how did what brought you to this business or this craft?
So I would certainly say that the gift comes through me and has been since my incarnation this lifetime around. I'm sure in past incarnations I've been drawing and designing since literally I could hold a pencil like 4 years old. I would draw these little like stick figures of women and adorn them and make all these designs and creations. And eventually, it would kind of evolve into the manifestation of garments as I got much older in my teens. And then I took it from a hobby and expression of my artistic flow into a business, maybe around the early 90s, maybe I was like 17, 18. I started designing for others. And then eventually, let's say maybe 1998, actually formed Simply Netfah as a business. And it was really, out of my desire to kind of have clothing that fit me and that I liked. I went to school for, my degree is actually in home economics, which is now home and consumer sciences. And then I specialize in fashion merchandising. I never went to school for design because that kind of came innately. I taught myself to sew. And so I kind of went to school more for the business aspect of it. So once I got that under my belt, I felt a little more confident in turning my craft into a business. And then most of my clientele early on were family and friends, women in the community, and especially the grassroots community, which kind of birthed me and helped form me, and then expanded worldwide.
Okay, and when you say the grassroots community, what did that look like in the 90s, that culture that shaped you? Like, what are some of the components? Can you touch on, some of those aspects?
Certainly. So early 90s, I came into, that was around the same time that I came into my own culture consciousness. And it was cultivated at a space called Stiltwalkers, which I don't know if you're familiar with. It was a Black-owned bookstore by a woman, African-American woman, who also was the head behind the Million Woman March, Letionesu. She opened Stiltwalkers back in 1990. I came in to work for her and help manage the store. We actually helped her, to bring the store into fruition. And it sat on 802 South Street, I think, if I remember. And it was pioneering at the time, because it housed a lot of the segues into our culture through books and clothing and adornment. And it brought in a lot of individuals from the community, from the grassroots community, you know, the Mumia Abu Jamals, the Ayunde Kennedys, the Pam Africas, like a lot of the elders who are pioneering and kind of like, you know, revolutionaries and the kind of activists or, you know, shakers in their time at that time in the movement were coming through those gates, and there was a lot of conversation and reasonings, and it was in that incubus that I was kind of that my deeper understanding of my roots and culture, and the nourishment of my craft kind of manifested and really took hold. And Filet was the first one who taught me how to wrap my hair. And I took it and ran with it from there. And, you know, for those who know her still, I mean, she's constant in her movement still today. So
she was one of your mentors.
One of my mentors for sure. My mother connected me with her to serve in that capacity, and it was a divine, transformational, life-changing movement for me, and kind of like shifted to a large degree the direction I was going in, and still to this day, I hold and cherish a lot of the relationships with individuals, the elders who came through there. And she was also the first one she was the one who got me my first paid, what do you call it? Not an assignment, but I was making these djembe drummer pants for this drummer I can't remember the group he was in. And she was like, I have a young lady who can do that for you. And I was like, no, not yet, I'm not ready. And she was like, no, she's good. And so I made these pants and jacked them up terribly. You know, I had to do them over 3 times before I got it right. But he was patient and kind. And it's certainly, you know, I'm always, because I'm self-taught, I'm learning as I grow and constantly challenging myself. Yeah. And so sometimes we need that little push to get out there.
Absolutely.
Because it's kind of easy to be kind of comfortable. So I did that, and you know, from there the word of mouth kind of spread, and the rest is history.
Right. So what has your journey been in the fashion industry as a Black woman entrepreneur? Those are 3 big things. First you're Black, then you're a woman, and then you're an entrepreneur. Not in that order, but what has that journey been like for you in the fashion industry? So, interesting enough, as a designer, the natural inclination would be that I would kind of gravitate and seize the opportunity to be immersed in the fashion industry on a commercial level. Right, and take it to the manufacturing level, on a worldwide level, you know, the goal being to be seen in all these stores and to have my pieces adorned in all these different people. And I just never gravitated towards that platform. I did, however, take advantage of the opportunity that the industry had to offer me. I've been immersed in the industry now on both ends, from the fashion side and the textile side, for over 30 years. And had the opportunity to go to FIT, get some training there. I taught at FIT. And so, you know, certainly there is the gravitation towards just the fashion inspiration has always been there, right? And that world is there, but my goal was always slightly different. I like to touch everything I make because I'm very clear that my ancestors, and there's energy working through me that goes into my pieces. And when you're advancing to like the manufacturing stage, none of that is happening. You know, it's a rarity you're touching any of your goods. You're kind of on a different platform. So I kind of focus more on the customized pieces, the niche
market of my offerings so that I can offer the fullness of the energy that goes into my pieces. I was talking to a sister the other day because we're coming into a new season, and Pantone, which is a big brand and forum and platform that speaks to the fashion industry, especially, the fashion trends. This is the time of year they come out with their fashion colors for the colors rather for the season, right? For the spring, summer, and then winter, fall, winter. And so a lot of times my clients are asking me, for pieces that kind of resonate with whatever's in season, whatever the color is, the trend for the season. And I'll say, I don't really work from that platform. That's not really my angle. My angle is really more so about what color are you resonating with, because that's the color for the season for you. It's less about what the trend says it is. Yes. So those are certain things when you mention the fashion industry and my involvement with it, or my role in it, or how it's kind of played into my life. Those are aspects that I just kind of don't put much energy on. I might get a pulse to see what's kind of out there, but I'm more of a trendsetter. And there's a different energy and different source that I pull from when creating my collections, when visualizing, the fashion designs that are going to be kind of coming from my platform. And so I feel a little bit ill-prepared to really speak fully on my experience in the fashion industry as a Black woman, because I just haven't immersed myself that way.
Okay, got it. So then where do you draw your inspiration from, since you're not really paying attention to fashion trends? At you being a trendsetter, where do you get your inspiration?
A lot of it's divine inspiration. A lot of it comes through my dream time.
In your dreams?
Some of it comes that way. Nature. Nature has an incredible way of showing patterns and designs and concepts. I really always gravitated towards Eastern design concepts. They're very free-flowing, not form-fitting, not constricting. And so I pull on some of that. I pull on some of the traditions, certainly, of our African ancestry and my rooted ancestry, whether it's First Peoples. I pull a lot from there in my travels. Inspiration is all around us. And so I think if I was to identify a few of those sources, those are what it would come down to for the most part.
Yeah. And then so when you are selecting materials and color schemes, or the theme for what you're going to create, can you talk about the importance of material choice and color choice, and what does color bring to the table?
Most certainly. So along my journey with the unfolding and the growing of Simply Netfah as a concept, right, from head to toe, the other passion that kind of fills my shoes is holistic health and well-being. So maybe in 2004, I became a certified holistic health counselor for the clear purpose of utilizing the knowledge and training in that field and applying it towards my art of adornment, And so basically what that looks like in layman's terms is holistic clothing, because we have a holistic, the word holistic usually applies to when we think about food, we think about our diet, but really when we think about holism and holistic approach to life, or a holistic lifestyle, it really is from the inside out, from head to toe. And so usually even for the person who maybe starts off only embracing the food part of it, the diet part of it, eventually, because it becomes a lifestyle, they start to look at other things outside their diet that kind of marry into that. And so to your question, when I'm contemplating the materials and the fibers I'm using, I'm looking for all natural materials that breathe with our body. That's your cotton, your linen, your wools, your bamboos, your hemps, your silks, a lot of nature-made fibers. Don't get me wrong, I love some of the man-made synthetics, and there, certainly there's so many new fibers being made and manufactured, even like pineapple and milk and mushrooms. It's really incredible. But for the basics, I'm not really there yet in my but your cotton, linen, wool, silks, and so that's my first gravitation, right? And then secondly is color, most certainly, because colors has a way of subduing or enhancing our energies. And we don't have to look too far out of our own limit, individual scope to see how color affects us in our lives, right? Whether it's through the marketing industries, inundation of color to affect consumer purchase, or how certain colors make us feel that are in the rooms around us, or that we just gravitate towards. We might just say it's our favorite color. But we don't really think why. Why are we gravitating to that color, right? Because there's an energetic compound behind it. And it's a pure science. Like the marketing industry knows it very well and has utilized it very well. I teach it from a perspective, and I cultivate it in the clothing from a perspective of how it can serve us, how that tool that we've been offered can serve us to subdue or enhance our energies. And so the colors that I come out with or that I'm utilizing really are, if I'm doing a collection, really is divinely inspired. It's whatever colors are calling me, even the fabric and the materials, whatever was out. Oftentimes my studio has a lot more fabric in there than I'm ready to actually create with, because when I see it and it's calling for me, I'm going to pick it up, and it's going to tell me what it needs to do. Even in my construction of my pieces, I don't use patterns. A lot of times the fabric, as odd or as unappreciated as it might sound, the fabric a lot of times lets me know where to cut and how to cut it up and how to manipulate it. And so I trust that. And so those are the constructual and fibers and different tools that I use when designing, and even coming into concept with my designs for a season or for a collection, or even if I'm doing a capsule collection. Yeah, like I had this sunburst orange piece. These fabrics, one's leather, one's like a silk, and one is like a some kind of linen blend. They're sitting in my studio right now, just waiting. Just waiting. So, but I have a feeling that's right around the corner since we're coming into spring and summer.
So let me ask you this. I see that you like to wear olive greens, and I use olive green pretty much like a black. Like it's my base color oftentimes.
Okay.
Tell us about that color. Like what's the energetic signature?
Right. So green in general on an energetic level, if we're looking at it from a chakra base, which certainly comes into dialogue when I'm talking about how colors can subdue or enhance our energies. Because all of us possess chakras within our body, right? And so some of the influence of that green could be our heart, which is what green resonates with, calling for us to either open ourselves up to love more or to give love more, right? Sometimes that's where that green is calling from. But green is also resonates with fertility. It resonates with creativity. It resonates with abundance, and so that might be where some of that influence is coming, why you gravitate towards that green in your baseline clothing collection. That can be various shades of green. When we identify it on a color wheel, though, it's probably going to be that Kelly green, that standard green. Right. but that is a extension of that color.
Okay. And are there any colors that you would recommend not wearing so often, or wear these colors more just in general? Or
yeah, there's a few that come off the top of my head. So until they come up with a darker color, black is my favorite. Now, and if you're being technical about it, if we're being technical about black's not a color at all, it's just a hue, right? But we identify it as a color.
Yes.
And I love black.
Yeah.
Because it's simple.
Yeah.
And it's my power color, right? But black is one of those colors that we have to be mindful of, especially as women, melanated women, because oftentimes we'll put black on ourselves, and the black has the strong ability, just like every other color, to subdue or enhance energy. But black absorbs energy more than any other color, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. And so, especially if I'm wrapping my hair in black, or say if a woman is taking it down for the night and she has her silk black bonnet on, right? We're absorbing energy for our 9 ether hair, our antennas, right? Because the hair on our head, especially if we're melanated, probably has a little wave or some kind of curl to it, making it even more of an antenna than maybe a non-melanated woman. And so we're kind of receiving energy, right? And so if you're wearing black on your head and I'm stepping out into the concrete jungle and I don't know what kind of drama is coming my way, and it's drama, whatever, we're absorbing that energy. Maybe not consciously, but subconsciously. Or like if we're taking it down at night, we have our silk bonnet and it's black. That whole realm that we sleep through, that spirit realm is upon us, and we have to be mindful. And so as much as I say, yes, rock that black, own it, especially if it's your power color, I would tell women definitely, and men too, especially the women. A lot of my workshops that I offer bring me into circles of women who are either Rastafari or Muslimas, and so a lot of their protocol is to cover their head. And so I will strongly encourage that if you're going to wear that black, wear some white underneath it, because while black absorbs, white repels. So that kind of offers a protective barrier, right? Okay. I would say red comes to mind as well. Red, the symbolic attachment that we have been socialized commercially to connect with red is, the red shoes, the red car, the red lips, all these dangerous sexual, overly sexual. And it really is, that's kind of like a little bit of it, but what's at the base of that is your life force. Red correlates with your root chakra, your life force, your that's where your courage is, your support is. And so with red, my disclaimer with red is that, if you're gravitating towards that red, two things. One is to be mindful if you're an individual who has sensitivity to like anxiety or any kind of seizure disorder, high blood pressure, hypertension, because red has a tendency to enhance that, to intensify that, right, for a person. And so I would say, kind of be mindful. Maybe don't put it on as much. Maybe subdue it, downplay me with an orange or something like that. But the other part of the red is that if you're trying to be noticed, if your intention is to be seen, put some red on. Okay. Because the human iris picks up red in 3 seconds. So like if I took a snapshot of 100 people and they had all different colors on, only one person had red on, and I took a picture and I showed it to you and I took it away and I said, what do you remember? You'd remember the red, the person in red primarily, because our eyes just kind of gravitate to that quickly. Okay. So if I had to, on a general level, if I had to pick a couple of colors that, that I usually speak to and speak of, would be those two colors there, and the green, of course. Green, I can't encourage enough to wear, to have around us. And even if you're not adorning yourself in it, maybe have it on, like I have a set of construction paper in my room, right? My studio, that if I need to pull on a certain energy, or if I need to subdue a certain energy, I might just let my eyes rest on that, kind of meditate on it for a little bit. Because as long as the iris is taking it in, you're kind of like, it's kind of resonating, right? So it doesn't have to be on your body, but why not, bring that understanding or overstanding the concept of color and the mindfulness to color into our wardrobe selection or into our space selection from a conscious approach, so that it can kind of work for us, right? To be a tool for us to subdue our Cancer energies. Gray is another one because it's wintertime outside.
Yes.
And we are melanated folks, and we're in the Northeast. And even if you're not melanated, but even more so, I have found that, we kind of need the warmth a little bit more than others and are affected by the weather up here, especially during the wintertime more, is to kind of be mindful of gray. Because gray is a color that, kind of speaks to an insulation of your energy, kind of like a lot of, like when you think about the monks back in the day, in the covenants, they wore gray a lot, right? Kind of like pulled away from the secular world to kind of hone in on their discipline and their spiritual side and all that. And that's good. But gray can kind of enhance or intensify any sense of depression or funk that you might be going through. So if you're going through a funk, you really don't want to have too much gray around you. So if you're going through that mood of the winter, kind of that funky mood of the winter that we carry, kind of maybe be mindful of how much gray we have around you.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I can go on with the colors because every color has an
has
energy.
A signature.
Right,
an energy,
right. That we can use as a tool. But those would be the first couple ones.
Right. And so obviously you are conscious every day about what colors you're drawn to and what you're wearing.
I don't even know if I'm conscious anymore about it. Right. I guess there was a time where I had my closet kind of organized by color.
Okay.
But no, there is a mindfulness to it. It's especially when I need to shift an energy. Like if I know there's a certain energy that I'm carrying at the time and I need to consciously shift it, I know what tools to use to shift it. Right. I know what color to put on, because that's what it is. We're using the tool of color. Right. What colors do I put on to shift that mood? Not only my mood, but because I teach workshops and I host events, I know what kind of mood to help transform a space, or what kind of colors to use to transform a space. So it's not always about me. It's about, okay, these are the people coming into the space. This is the energy I want to create in the space. So these are the tools I'm going to use to create this energy.
Okay. So more than fashion, really you are an energy worker. A healer, or what would you call yourself? I see that there's activism in what you do. There's a revolutionary element. There's energy work, healing. How do you see? Right.
Well, there's definitely a spiritual science to the art and especially my creations and my offerings. There is a desire to educate, empower, inspire, and heal. And so certainly there's nothing that I have, no space on my journey, or no place on my journey with my offerings has it ever been just about the head wrap or the clothing. Because it could never be just about that. Right. So there's definitely a lot of energy work and energy consciousness in the clothing. And as far as, the revolutionary aspect of it, or the mindset behind it, most definitely. Because when we're talking about self-defining woman, you can't really be a self-defining woman and fit into a box. Most likely you have to be of a revolutionary mindset. Whether it is that because you're a woman who, practices wellness and self-love and self-help, and, that act alone is quite defiant, when we think about the society we live in, I remember a sister friend of mine, she's a colon therapist, and she would say that your well-being is an act of political revolutionary, mindset. And I believe it to be true. And so in that concept, yes, definitely there's a revolutionary mindset behind it, and a healing concept behind it. Because it's a very transformational opportunity for us, while we still have it, the freedom to adorn ourselves as we, and that's my tool of expression. Other people have their tools of expression, and that's mine.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, could you talk about some of the products and services that you specialize in or offer? I know there's the head wraps,
yes,
and the clothing. You can speak to that a little bit, but also the service aspects.
Yeah, thank you. So, right, so the head wrapping piece is one that I didn't start off with, but because I wrap my hair and I'm kind of the walking advertising for my business, oftentimes I would get stopped and women would say, well, oh my God, how do you get your hair wrapped like that? And I'm like, it's really not that intense, it's not difficult. And eventually I would wind up teaching classes. And so I've had the wonderful opportunity to travel around the country and teach women of all, walks of life. Because, while, we have our tradition in head wrapping based on African ancestry, women from all cultures wrap their hair. It's usually a segmented culture within a culture, but from all walks of life. So there are times where I'm sitting with women who don't look like us, don't wrap for the same reasons that we do, but they're wrapping their hair nonetheless. And it's a wonderful experience to share all these head wrapping stories, because there's so much to them. It's not, for a lot of how I teach it and the premise from where I teach it from, is there an aesthetic aspect to it where it's just about what it looks like? Okay, a little bit, right? If you just want to get up and go and not wear that wig or not, worry about your hair too much. Yeah, so there's an aesthetic aspect about it, but for me, it's much, much deeper than that. It's really about the mindset behind it, because our exterior is just a reflection of our interior consciousness. And so let's put some meaning behind that, to make it even more profound and meaningful. And so there's the head wraps, yes, and then the adornment, which you spoke of already. And then there's the workshops, because each opportunity of adorning is an opportunity to create conversation, and to share more insight, to gain more insight, and to help women to experience a transformational way of adorning themselves, right? And so I teach the art of sacred dressing, which kind of touches on a lot of what we're talking about now, the science behind dressing and things like that. I teach the crowning with color, which talks about the head wrapping with color and how color subdues or enhance our energies. I teach a workshop called The Fundamentals of Raw Clothing Construction, which I'm excited to be offering in this space, which I'm sure we'll talk about down the line. But the Fundamentals of Raw Clothing Construction is basically, how do I turn this fiber or this material or this old pair of jeans or these, this t-shirt into something else, right? Through the art of deconstruction, reconstruction, slow fashion, which is a big movement I've always been with and support strongly. But how do I turn it from this into that? How do I create something that could be sellable or wearable without the use of a sewing machine? And I took it from that premise because, there might come a time or there might be a situation we don't have access to electricity, right? Whether forced or not. Or, you might not have that tool, and you might only be able to rely on your hands.
Sure.
So how do I create, like we did back in the day, from this premise, right? And then so it gives me, so I teach it on a couple of different platforms. I started teaching it initially because my son at the school he was attending many years ago, it was strongly academically based, but it didn't have too many of the artistic offerings, no music, no art class, anything like that. And I was like, we're preparing them great on that field, but not every child kind of gravitate. We have some children that are just going to really thrive in artistic realm. And so I started teaching it to the high schoolers. I had a school up in Jersey for that purpose. And then took it to the community, started offering it to the community. And then I took it to private organizations, and then I took it to the individuals. And it gives us the opportunity, again, to turn nothing, quote unquote, nothing into something, to be stewards of Mother Earth, because, if you mentioned the fashion industry, I'm in the fashion industry and the textile industry. And one thing I can't deny and that we know all too well is that a large majority of our landfills are full with fiber. That's just not going to go anywhere because it's synthetic, it's not all natural. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
And then the amount of pollution that occurs through the fashion industry, through fast fashion, there's we can't keep moving in that direction and say we love living on Earth at the same time. It's just not going to work that way. We can't keep exploiting her and then just trashing it, and and so there is a need for it as much as a creative opportunity found in the Fundamentals of Law Clothing Construction Workshop. And it's called that because we're breaking it down to the basics and we're building it up from there. And I offer it to students, to individuals 11 years old and up. And oftentimes in the classroom, you'll see that. You'll see an 11-year-old, like a little younger, you see the grandmother, someone aged a grandmother. And we're creating in a creative space, and we're bridging the gap between generations. So, because a lot of that you hear too out here, that there's this disparity, there's this gap between the millenniums and the elders, and, and it's causing this, lack of unity and everything. And really it's just a matter of finding the connector, right? And so this kind of space is one space to offer that. And it's so interesting and wonderful and humbling to see that collaboration, but even more so to see these elders, tap into their childhood again, or the child within them again, because you really can see it happening. And then certainly to see, the manifestation of something that wasn't there before, that's created by these hands, these individual hands, something for them to be proud of, to look at. And then, eventually, if you wanted to take it and turn it into a business, because ideally, for the sake of self-sufficiency, if we can turn this gift or this craft or this ability into a business, why not, right? And so I love that offering, and so I teach that, and I feel like there's like 1,000 other things I teach, but I can't think of them right now because those are the main ones.
Right. So can you just speak a little to the slow fashion movement, because maybe a lot of people don't know, or have never heard of that before. What is the slow fashion movement?
Right. So in order to understand the slow fashion, we had to first understand the fast fashion, which is what has really grown the slow fashion movement to what it is now. So the fast fashion movement is what we've been seeing the last 20 years. It is, the overconsumption of fashion that's made unethically, 9 times out of 10, cheap labor, very cheap labor, if not free, outsourced. A lot of the big companies more. So we're not seeing fast fashion in the small companies. We're talking about like the head designers, these big designers, international designers, not to put out certain companies and brands, but, we've heard probably about them on the news, right? And they're selling fashion, the rotation of fashion. There used to be a time where maybe you would come out with a collection in the fashion industry twice a year. Your spring, summer, your winter, fall.
Yes.
Or fall, winter, I said it backwards all the time. Now, because of consumer demand, there's a pressure to create fashion collections like I swear every month it seems, right? So you have them in rotation a lot more. So that demand then puts demand on the workers to produce fashion quickly, right? And so in order to speed up everything, a lot gets jeopardized. It is jeopardized, right? Manpower is just, you can't run a person 20 hours on a sewing machine for the sake of getting it out, right? You start creating out, just really raping Mother Earth of her fibers, her cottons, her natural produced fiber. You know, you got these man-made materials. And so the demand is that you create this fashion collection and it's at a really affordable price, right? So affordable that I can afford to rock this for 2 months and then throw it away into a landfill while I pursue another design to stay with the trends and, you know, to keep like that. And you can see like it's not a good look overall. And at some point it's going to collapse. And so slow fashion is what we traditionally kind of know, you know, when it comes to fashion it is about the integrity of it's about, first of all, it's about ethical practices. Okay. It's about integrity of the craft. It's about mindfulness to not only what you're creating, but who you're creating it for, how it's affecting Mother Earth, how it's being produced, how it's being manufactured, right? Creating quality clothing, because a lot of what's coming out is not, you know, it's not a quality at all. The fibers, I mean, you wash it twice, it's falling apart. So it's about a mindfulness. Just the biggest difference is the mindfulness. It's not about money, fast, you know, demand. It's more about conscious consumerism. It's more about conscious approach to dress, ethical fashioning. And so that's what I've always aligned with, and that's what I continue to align with and support heavily. Yeah.
Okay. And so what do you see as the future of Simply Netfah as the world changes and as we move along? Where is Simply Netfah going from here?
We're going in the same direction we started from, and just staying true to that, right? So, you know, offering that slow fashion collection, the integrity and mindfulness of the approach to our collections, our designs, our services, more workshops, certainly. I'm excited, quietly excited, because I can't put it on blast too strong right now, but we, you know, partnerships is a big thing with us as well. Collective alliances and collective merging with other like-minded business owners like yourself and artisans. And, you know, we didn't get a chance to talk about our work over the years or our collaborative efforts, but, you know, So we're looking at creating a space right here in West Philly, a shared space of holistic artisans called I&I Holistic Artisan Collective. It's going to be housed here at One Art in West Philly. And it's going to be kind of the center for a lot of the workshops that I'm talking about, a lot of the collaborative efforts that are on horizons with other like-minded businesses that, you know, share in the vision of, you know, adornment, but not only that, just a sustainable lifestyle, eco fashion, you know, everything that One Art already represents, and then some, because not only is there a calling for it, but there's an answer for it. You know, there's a response coming through a lot of folks for that here. And so we're really excited about that. And then certainly bringing more virtual, you know, we talked about I'm very much on a hybrid platform. I prefer that exchange because there's a lot that's found in that interactive exchange, but I totally get the need and the benefits of the virtual platform. And so more programming on a virtual level, some more of our workshops, some one-on-one consultations, because that's been kind of on the tongue of a lot of my clients and like the one-on-ones. And we're all about, individualizing. That's, it's definitely about individual transformation as it is about the whole. And so we're looking forward to more programming like that as well.
Awesome. Well, I'm one of your biggest fans.
And I'm one of your biggest fans.
So
blushing.
We've worked together on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
I myself am a jewelry and textile artist, I call myself, and bring that spiritual element also to what I do. And so we've collaborated over the years, and I just want to testify and just say that my speaking to the slow fashion and the conscious fashion movement, the pieces that I have gotten from you, I mean, maybe 10 years ago or so, still exist in my my apparel arsenal.
Right.
So yes, just like the quality is there, the simplicity, so that you can always integrate it.
We try to keep it timeless.
It's timeless. For me, it's timeless. And I wear them until they fall off. I wear them until they fall apart. I really do. And I always can't wait to get my next piece. And so that still holds true now. I can't wait for my next Simply Netfah.
I'm humbled by that because it's a testament that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing on an energetic level, on an ancestral level, and we've talked about this. We've shared reasoning about, just honoring the craft and the creativity that flows through us and the source from where it comes. And I'm humbled by that testimony. And it's funny because I have customers, clients who, like you, have pieces that have, just really seen some days, and they'll come to me like, do something with it. Can you recreate something else from this?
Exactly.
What can you
because this fits perfectly.
Right. Right. And that's again, that goes back to the reconstruction, deconstruction mindset of slow fashion and how do I take that now and recreate from that, right? Because there's so much, and this, and I know this from being a client of yours and a fan of your work as well. There's so much energy when it's coming from a certain heartfelt space, right? A heart business platform. It's the energy that's coming through your pieces, right? That I want, right? And then I cherish and I value. And so I can think about like the waist bead that
yes.
Like
just pieces that
are just pieces, and I'm like, salvage it, right? Make it happen,
right.
And you did, and because it's not, there's some meaning behind it. It's not a starboard, and that I think that's the other part that we offer as artisans that hold integrity in our craft and the mindfulness of craft is that that's something you can't get from necessarily a store-bought piece. Absolutely. Right? Because there's your energy going into your work, and I'm receiving that energy. Now it's on me, right? And so there's that exchange happening, and there's a mindfulness and a value place. At least for me, and I think a lot, and I know that is our niche and our offering. That is, is of value.
Yes, there is a different level of intimacy when you are getting a handmade item, from an artist. And so, that is something very special, and I certainly, have gotten that from clients of my own. And I know that you experience that too, that just like there is a connection that you have with your clients that is second to none. So,
Yeah.
well, do you have anything else that you want to add to this conversation?
I just want to thank you for the platform. I'm so excited about Get Up Mag and, the vision behind it, and certainly your team on the other side of the camera here. And, just there is something to be said again about this kind of exchange and the offerings that we are bringing, especially moving forward, in this time that we're living in, and the mindset that we're kind of, discarding or owning. And it brings us back to it is a calling for the authentic to come through, and a calling for us to raise not only our vibrations but the vibrations of humanity, and to heed to the calling if it is there out there for us, right, to do the work on whatever level or platform we're doing it from. And I think there's a lot of people in need of healing and transformation, and they might even know how to identify it necessarily until they kind of are confronted with it, and then it kind of takes them into the direction they need to go in. And so with Simply Netfah, that's definitely where we're harnessing in on, and we're just really excited about like I said, the collaborative effort that we're going to have in 1 hour. I know Malika's not here, but I know you have the opportunity to talk with her. But she's doing an incredible, offering incredible service as well to folks, and so I'm just excited.
Yeah, well, I want to thank you for, as you said, heeding the calling, showing up, and being obedient to the call, and offering something to the world that is unique and needed, and that will help us all move forward, in this time that we're in. I feel like we're in a very special time right now, a reset, a time of where we do have to show up, with our gifts. And you have done that, and we have enjoyed your gifts.
Yeah.
So thank you, Netfah.
And I think my tribe that's out there, I don't know if I look in the camera now, but my tribe that's out there, we would not have gotten this far without them. And I thank you, tribe. And we do have we have a t-shirt coming out too. I forgot to mention. This is one of our t-shirts here, the 100% Woman. It's perfectly flawed, beautifully complex, 100% woman. But we have another t-shirt coming out in the spring as well. So we're excited about that.
We look forward to seeing that.
The self-defining woman just a little bit more.
Yes.
And our connection with our I am God selves. So we're excited about that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me as always. And I'm assuming my IG and my website.
We will definitely plug that.
Yes.
For sure.
Now that I'm on it now, finally.
Yes. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.